this is it. This is when I'm gonna mash it and go. And the second I did that, a loud booming male voice booming from the back of my seat saying,
"You need to be here for Julie. You need to be here for Julie."
And instantly it was just the desire to kill and hurt myself went completely sucked out.
Millions of people who have taken DMT and other psychedelics say that these experiences change their mental health, their addiction, and in some cases, their entire life.
I can say DMT saved my life. It's before psychedelics and after psychedelics.
The conventional explanation is that psychedelics are changing the chemistry in the brain. They alter perception. They increase neuroplasticity. They disrupt the ego. They help people see their lives from a different angle. And all that may be true, but it's not the whole story.
If you have any one of these experiences, you know that you are way more than your physical body.
People do not come back from taking DMT and just say that it makes them feel better. They say that they've encountered entities, and they say that those entities have communicated with them. They say that the experience feels more real than waking life, and they come back less afraid of death. And oftentimes they describe the same type of beings, the same realms, and the same impossible feeling that something on the other side knew more than they did. So I need to speak to someone that says that DMT and psychedelics not only help them, but pull them back from the edge. In this episode, you're going to hear Adam Butler's story, his addiction, his aggression, his collapse, how he lost everything, how he almost lost his life, and how mushrooms, DMT, the Monroe Institute completely changed the way he understands himself and reality. By the end of this episode, Adam's story will lead us to one possible explanation. DMT may not only change the brain, it may change the filter. Hope you're enjoying the video so far, and if you are, please consider giving us a follow. And if you're on YouTube, on mobile, please consider hyping the video. Apparently the YouTube algorithm really likes that these days. So if you want to support the channel, those two things are the top two things that you can do at the present time. And I think it's worth your while because we actually have some really awesome content coming out. We're actually doing the DMT Laser Experiment again, potentially multiple times, testing out your theories and ideas that you left in the comments. So we promise that if you give us that follow, it's going to be worth your while. Now back to the video.
I was in a really, really tough, shitty place at 40 years old. Everything in my life had kind of fallen apart, from horrible relationships to lost jobs to basically becoming homeless, from having everything to having all of this shit. And it's not a woe is me story. I was pretty much raised with a silver spoon. I had every possible advantage, amazing upbringing, all the support. I had money gifted to me. I had everything. And it was really this self-destructive path that I was sweeping under the rug for so long. And that's why before recording again, we all three of us have mentioned that we're passionate about mental health, that we've all gone through our own struggles. And I was at this point in life where I had everything on paper, but everything was self-destructing and falling apart. And I can say now I'm over 5 years sober from alcohol, and that's a huge, huge part of the story. So I needed to get that shit out of my life and kind of get that crap out of my body and my consciousness. And then when I came out of that, I knew my passion wasn't to be in the rat race of making money. It wasn't to acquire material wealth. And it really was to try to share the knowledge of what I had been through with the plant-based medicines as well as my mental health journey. And out of that came the book, Butler's DMT Field Guide, which was published about 3 years ago. That book has just changed my life and opened my doors to so many amazing things, opportunities, which just led to a 5-day darkness retreat, which is why I still have bags under my eyes. I'm just getting back from my 5-day, 100-hour plus, like fucking light fast. The long short is, I'm the guy that almost lost my life because I was a douchebag drunk alcoholic that lost everything. And then psychedelics, and DMT in particular, allowed me to have a perspective shift that adjusted everything, where it's not, now I'm fixed and everything's good. It's just my perspective has allowed me to grow and flourish and then help other people do that. And man, my life now is just absolutely fucking awesome. In my case, it wasn't one bad event or one harsh day or one day where I lost it and was just like, oh shit, I almost did something rash. It was basically a 2-year destruction of my life where everything systematically fell apart, rebuilt, fell apart, rebuilt, fell apart. And then it was a systematic year and a half exploration of, do I want to kill myself, including living on the road, being homeless. I went to 40 plus states. I lived on beaches. I went to all the national parks. I literally said fucking, deuces to the world. And I spent 10,000 miles driving in over a year, like I said, trying to figure out, do I want to be in this body anymore? The initial thing started with, I got a knock on the door from a constable serving me a restraining order. At that point, I was in a 7+ year relationship with this beautiful woman, 2 beautiful daughters, 3-story Victorian by the ocean. We had just remodeled the entire house, 120 grand in the kitchen alone, like just this amazing fucking thing. But I was treating her and myself and everybody around me like an asshole, and like, I've never been in a fight in my life. I've never hit anybody, man or woman. So the restraining order was just that I was being verbally and mentally and spatially abusive. And I was, unfortunately, being all of those things. And then you mask it with being a broken fucking guy with, masking with alcohol. And that was the first kind of shake-up. So I was like, all right, so my relationship's over, the house is gone, and the guy's like, you need to leave and leave now. And where I live, running my business is out of. And then the kick in the dick on that one was, that was right before COVID started. So then all of the court systems shut down. So it was, that pended in the courts for over a year. So that should have been a 3-week restraining order. And then I get in, I get my shit, we figure it out. Well, it wasn't. It was a year of pending. I'm living in my parents' basement while all my stuff's tied up. But hindsight, I take 100% responsibility. She did everything right. I owe her an apology, her family an apology. At that point, I realized I did need to stop drinking. So I started, that was right when I kind of cut that out. Well, the company that I worked for was run by my family friend. That was the guy who knew me forever. And that's the younger guy who was just a different of personalities. Well, a year and a half into it, and I'm giving everything my all, and I found out that this younger guy screwed me over $900. Now, at that point, I was so raw, so beaten, so whatever, that I had no fucking trigger, and I threatened to kill him. And it wasn't, again, not a rash decision. We met in the office. We had a conference with a bunch of people. I called him out on it. I said, I know you fucked me over. I know you stole from me. And he looked me dead in the face and was like, yep, man, I did. And basically, fuck you. Like, so, and my boss is, and I'm like, so I basically said, like, I'm going to walk through you. And there was a horrible situation where luckily it was diffused by the people that were there. That was on a Sunday night. And I just left, and I was just like, what the fuck do I have to trust on now? I've rebuilt my life 3 times over the last whatever. I've gotten screwed over by the men, the women, about the money, all this shit. Now I'm homeless, I'm broke. I was living in the owner's home, so I know I didn't now have a place where I could live. The guy that I threatened lived 3 blocks away from where I had lived, and he was a young guy with a young kid and a newly married. And he was a hothead. So I knew that night, one of us, we were going to go, he was either going to kill me or I was going to kill him. So I said, I'm going to wake up Monday morning and drive to California and hug a redwood tree. And at that point, I had a 2-door coupe Audi S5, and I had plenty of money in the bank. And I said, fuck it, I'm out. And I had no plans, and I literally drove 26 hours to Kansas City. That was my first stop. And then I spent a year on the road, basically doing DMT shrooms and just blowing through 80 grand and saying, fuck it, I got to figure this shit out.
Adam's story matters because it gives us the before state. He wasn't looking for enlightenment. He wasn't chasing aliens. He was trying to survive himself. And that changes the way that we have to look at psychedelic experiences. The first thing that psychedelics gave him wasn't aliens or entities or symbols or cosmic answers. It was a mirror.
You can't lie to yourself on 5 grams of shrooms when you're staring in the mirror, and you got to start taking accountability, and that's finally when I could get out of my own way. Stop looking for external solutions to your internal problems. Stop thinking that more money, a hotter women, a faster car is going to fix your problems, and stop thinking that because you've got a lot of money and a fancy car and a good title that somehow makes you better than somebody else. And as I'm sitting there 40 pounds overweight with a muffin top, looking like shit, broke, with no woman, living in some dude's basement, now I'm homeless, and it's like, well, who are you going to blame, douchebag? It's you. You're the straight A student with every advantage that has all these skill sets that can do anything. So you got to stop blaming the other people. It's like people have done so much more with less, and that's when I took really kind of 3 months of my life and just said, all right, I've got to figure this out. And through that process, buckets of tears, lots of explorations, lots of accountability, but it was really now, oh shit, I was the asshole this whole time. I'm the one that ruined all those relationships. I need to say I'm sorry to all these people. Now I'm broke, I'm homeless. I'm like, it wasn't, all it was shining a spotlight on my crap, but no real plan forward. And then that's when DMT came in, because I was in such a funk that I know that I needed I needed a shake up, and I needed it bad. I was really to the point where I was going to walk off into the woods and not come back. And again, not a rash decision, not because one bad thing happened. It's because as a grown man, this is my choice to make, and this is something that whatever, like, this is, if I don't want to be here, I don't have to fucking be here. The information was out there about psychedelics helping people.
Adam wasn't the only person hearing that psychedelics could change addiction and depression. At the same time, the culture around these substances was shifting.
I am pleased to announce historic reforms to dramatically accelerate access to new medical research and treatments based on psychedelic drugs. In many cases, these experimental treatments have shown life-changing potential for those suffering from severe mental illness and depression.
In 2024, more than 80,000 people died of overdoses. It's a horrible number. And there's more than 5 million people that are addicted to opiates right now in this country. With one dose of Ibogaine, more than 80% of people are free of that addiction. With 2 doses, it's more than 90%. These drugs are illegal not because they're harmful, they're illegal because of the 1970 Controlled Substances Act that was passed by the Richard Nixon administration.
The information about neurogenesis and neuroplasticity and how you can reset things and whatever, shake the Etch-a-Sketch and rebuild your thing, or, consider the ski mountain with all the trails that, well, now you get fresh snow and now you can make your own trail. And there's all these colorful ways of describing it. And I was like, well, maybe that's what I need. And man, the first couple deep sessions of shrooms was just like, oh, like, you're the 180-pound fucking man screaming at a little 100-pound woman with the veins popping in your voice after drinking all day, screaming with not only the neighbors, but 3 streets around can see you, and she's got two teenage daughters there with their friends, so now there's 5 young women in the house, and there's raging douchebags coming, and it's like, all of these things was just like pouring down on me, and it was just like, and then it was that relationship, and then that relationship, and then my first relationship, we broke up 3 months before my wedding. Then I'm friends with her now, and she's like, yeah, same thing, Adam. That's why we fucking broke up. And it's like, all this shit to have to take about accountability of it. There was no one to blame. And then it's like, well, now what do I do? Well, now I guess I got to figure this out. And that's when, I started pushing it 3, 4, 5 grams. The highest I went was like 7 or 8 grams. I would go multiple grams and then do another multiple grams. And I was just really going through all of this true inner shadow work, confronting once again those monsters, those demons, and with no place to run. And I mentioned it's kind of like having a conversation with God, whatever that concept may be of you, with true serum, where everybody has no ulterior motives. There's no way to lie, and this is where I think this is one of those things where it really applies. And call it what you want. This is how it affects my life. Everything that I run through, I always act like I'm on camera, that I'm being recorded, that I have to be accountable, and that God is on one shoulder, my Pepe's on one shoulder, and that now these DMT entities are basically kind of above all of that, where you cannot lie. So everything's a telepathic communication. It's expressed in colors, feelings, heartbeats, breath. It's just instant rawness, and here's my soul on the scale against the feather type shit. And if you have any jealousy, any insecurity, if there's any fucking, and it's not any of those things are bad, it's just there's no way of disguising them. And as scary as that is, and it is, and that's why people have bad trips and you end up crying, but it's like, it is so liberating and so freeing and so like, oh, I don't need to fucking look for my problem, it's right there. I don't need to keep sweeping under the rug, it's right there.
So this is the first mechanism that Adam gives us. And like I said earlier, the mushroom didn't give him aliens, didn't give him the DMT Laser Experiment. They gave him a mirror. He could finally see a part of himself that he was avoiding for years. But that's not where the story ends. Because according to Adam, the mirror did not save him. It did show him the problem, but it also made the weight of his decisions exponentially heavier. He was still suicidal, and he still did not really have a path forward. And that's where DMT enters the story.
About 3 or 4 months of that exploration, but I was still suicidal. If anything, it was even worse because it was like, oh wow, I can't even deflect anymore. Like now I got even more weight on my shoulders. And that's where, like I said, Rick Strassman, the spirit molecule, Andrew Gallimore, he's one that's really big in the scene. These are the names that have been out for a while that I would recommend starting with them. My field guide is something that was meant to be easy, accessible, kind of get you some of the information going. It has recipes, but there are experts in the field that I started studying and reading that gave me confidence to be to explore it even further. And then the common story, like most people with DMT, is that it finds you. Like, you'll hear it once and then twice, and then it falls in your lap 4 times in the matter of like a month, and somehow like the dots get connected. And a buddy of mine, and I consider him a brother, and literally the guy that helped save my life, he knew what a dark spot I was in. He knew that I needed to find something out with my life, and he had access to it, and had some. And he said, I've got DMT. You're welcome to it. You can have as much of it as you want. And I took about 50 hits that first day, and that was the day that my life changed, and I had that epiphany. And it was about an hour and a half to 2 hour sessions. I did 7 or 8 separate sessions, and each session was multiple hits, and it ended with this profound breakthrough that literally just instantly in a second changed everything. And again, not magic pill, everything's fixed. It was just like the shrooms was, you need to be accountable and this is on you. The DMT was like, all right, well, now you have a path forward on how to figure out like what you do with that information.
Like I said, I've never done a psychedelic, so it's really interesting for me at least, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners might be in the same boat too, that hearing you talk about it, my naivety, I think, makes me feel like, oh, you just tried DMT once, you meet these entities, and then all of a sudden you're healed. Like, and that's just, hearing you, it's like a reality check to me it isn't this magic pill that you're just going to take one time and just be good. It's more of I would almost use the analogy, like in the way we were talking about like truth seeking and like looking at these big pictures and trying to challenge the world to try to investigate these. It's almost like when you're taking psychedelics in this way, you're almost truth seeking yourself, and you're trying to like put a mirror up to yourself and say, why am I the way that I am? Why am I suicidal, depressed, anxious, fill in the blank, whatever I am, overweight, unhappy, just, why am I angry all the time? You put this mirror up, and it seems like, and correct me if I'm wrong, that psychedelics are just this mirror that allows you to look at that like internally and be able to process it in a way that normal reality, when you're quote unquote sober, it's much harder to do it. Like you can do it through deep meditations and darkness retreats and things like that, but it's more of like would you say a shortcut is like a fair way to describe it, or am I totally off base?
You're on base, but I want to expand both of those. So the concept about mirror, holding a mirror against yourself, yes, but so what type of mirror? And so is it a carnival house mirror that's going to distort things? Is it a mirror like with when you take prescription pills that everything's dulled and done down? So are you under the looking under the guise and lens of being on 12 bears? Or so yes, a mirror, but an actual truthful, factual, no way to hide, and not, well, that's just a distorted psychedelic mirror. No, it's not. And that's where there's the clear distinction, because it has other layers of complexity that requires authenticity, that requires honesty, that requires, again, a telepathic conveyance that you can't hide. It's not like, well, I'll just cover this up some way. It's like, no, there's no way of covering it, like, because you're getting to the core of where the base of that information is. The popular movie back in the day, They Live, remember with Roddy Piper? Oh, that's from your generation.
Yeah, okay.
But like when you're wearing the goggles and they get the glasses, and it's like, oh fuck, you can finally see.
Yeah.
So it's not just what lens are you looking through, or what's being reflected in the mirror. Is that mirror actually real, and is that mirror tinted with a lens, or is that mirror tilted with some sort of bias? And I think psychedelics remove the bias. They don't add a drugged up kind of sense to it. It is endogenous, meaning that it is produced naturally in your own body. So just like I was saying, it's plant-based and it's natural, like shrooms were, which was interesting. This had all those qualities, but it was also natural to my own body, which is why I felt comfortable exploring it a little bit further. It added another layer of like, all right, I think maybe I can become comfortable with this. But in Rick Strassman's early studies in the 90s, the volunteers and were constantly saying that they would come back and the experiences were more real than real. And you'll hear a lot of people come back about their psychedelics, and me just saying about how, this is clearly the real part and walking state isn't. You'd be like, how can you fucking say that? You just took a drug and now you're saying you're more. Well, and my response to that is, if you spend, like with DMT, when you smoke it, it's about 7 or 8 minutes. It's typically under 10 minutes, and you're going to this blast out shit, and all this stuff is happening, and then How is that possibly more real? Well, because in a normal walking state of 7 minutes, say I have my normal 5 senses that we supposedly only have, and my maximal level to dial those up are 10. So whatever, say the maximal data points I can get is 100. If you're on a far dose of DMT, not only do you have 5 human senses, you have way more. And again, I don't have the names for those. Some of them is telepathy, some of it's telekinesis, some of it's conveying, like people can see flavors, and people have synesthesia, where the senses are all kind of mixing. You're having all of these heightened things happen.
The phrase more real than real comes up constantly in DMT reports. And frankly, it's one of the strangest parts of the whole subject. Because people aren't just saying that they see colors and patterns and dreamlike imagery. They're saying what they see carries the weight of reality itself. In a large survey of over 2,500 people who described their most memorable DMT entity encounter, 81% said the experience felt more real than waking life. 84% reported communication with the entity. 85% described the communication as extrasensory or telepathic. And 75% located the entity in a real but different dimension, or in both that dimension and ordinary reality. Now, that doesn't prove that these entities are real, but it does give us very important data. For many people, DMT does not feel like imagination. It doesn't feel like it's coming from within the brain. It feels like contact. So when Adam describes this experience feels more real than real, and that he's all of a sudden having these extra senses, he's not describing something rare. He's describing one of the central patterns in DMT literature. And the question is why? How? Adam's answer is that DMT does not remove the normal senses. It adds something to them. More input, more signal, more reality than the brain usually allows through.
It's not 5 senses at 10. You've got 15, 20, 100 senses, and that's the point, is what is the capacity of the human potential? It's fucking unlimited, and there's so many things that can happen. And then, not only, well, you thought the dial could only go to 10. No, it can go to 100, 1,000, a million, or limited. Oh, it can go, and it can go negative 10, 100, million, 1,000. And it's like, so you come out of that 7 minutes with not 100 data points, you come out with 1,000,000 data points. And it's not, well, the normal sights and sound are gone, and that those data points get erased. No, they're all there. But they're 2% of the input. What, are you just going to ignore the other 98% of the input? It's like, no, it's because, well, those weren't part of the sight, sound, taste. Yeah, I know. They were part of the telepathic download conveyance, DNA unlocking, alien interaction. I don't know what the fuck senses took those in. But to say that didn't have profound impacts on my life, hundreds of thousands of people's lives, once you know that you're more than your physical body, you know that you're way more than your 5 senses, and that you can take in way more information. But even just think about like the animal senses. How much more heightened a dog can smell. How whales can communicate through whatever echo sound. About how cats can see. Like, I mean, all this shit. So clearly, human biological bodies, mammals included, can go way beyond what the humans can do. That's normal and that's acceptable. There's multiple, obviously, machines that can pick up X-rays, gamma rays, and UV rays, and so it's just a matter of what's the sensitivity of the equipment taking the energy in. And this is where the simple answer to all this is that us as a human body has multiple ways of refining and upgrading and elevating our receiver to take in multiple different types of energy. And DMT is one way, meditation's one way. Being just chromosomally different with like some of these autistic children is another way. Just, hey, they never got the lock on their thing. We have such just plaque built up on us as humans. And some of it's self-induced, some of it's self-limited, but some of it's just normal, natural, how to survive. The stresses of being a mom, a dad, of running children, of running a business, of just fucking living. And with all that plaque that builds down, I think that there's a twofold negative thing that happens. One, whereas a human in our special, unique light isn't able to express ourselves, we're not doing creative things, we're not expressing love, we're not expressing connection, we're not intellectually curious, we're just bogged down with all the crap, and then we sit there in social media smut and look at porn or watch crap on TV, and it just keeps compounding until you're suicidal, depressed, in debt, fat, and everything's fucking shitty. But then also, when that plaque is on, you're not able to receive the divine light and source, and again, however you want to call it, but all that other beautiful light and energy and love from other things and people and bumblebees and the smiles of children and the little dogs and like all the wonderful things that are out there, it's just penetrating and bouncing off of you. So what psychedelics did for me was absolutely remove all that plaque away and just blasted it away. Where so now my body and inner light and can shine and all this uniqueness and expression can go through. But I'm also radiating, connected to source, to all the people, to connected to all living things. And it's like I'm running with no plaque, with no alcohol. Everything's fully aligned, and that doesn't make me enlightened, figured it all out, and I have all the answers. Absolutely not. If anything, I'm raw, I'm emotional, I'm a mess in a lot of ways. And if anything, it's like, holy shit, what do I do with this? But I'm not bogged down. I'm not taking in less information. I'm not running. I'm leaning in full head on, and I'm being authentically true to myself. And that's where, if everybody can touch and feel that, that's the fucking gold. And it's not seeing the DMT entity or interacting with the jester. It's a matter of, wow, feeling your own divine light, your own inner strength. And once you feel your own fucking power, and for some people that's Jesus. For some people that's a tragedy. For some people that's a major loss. For some people that's a near-death experience. You know, and there's a lot of great stories about near-death experiences. Anthony Peake is actually somebody you may want to have on your show. He does a great tie between DMT, near-death experiences. He does all this academic research on tying together like temporal lobe epilepsy, and yeah, there's a lot there, because even with a seizure, your brain chemically and physiologically can twist where now that receiver again is elevated, heightened, and people are having crazy entities bedside with DMT entities when they're stroking out. And it's like, yeah, it's the same shit, because now your brain is removing the veil.
Adam's right. People claim to see DMT entities all the time when they're in an extreme situation. And what about Bob Lazar? For those of you that don't know, Bob Lazar is a UFO whistleblower back from the 1980s that claims to have reverse engineered UAP UFO in a secret base called S4. The reason I bring Bob Lazar up is because in the recent UFO documentary S4, The Bob Lazar Story, Luigi Venditelli, the director, highlights a moment where Bob claims to be inside the craft, looking out at these archways. The archway becomes translucent, and there are these symbols that take up half the screen. And Bob says it looks like Korean writing. What does this matter? Well, when doing Danny Goler's DMT Laser Experiment, people take DMT, they look at this diffracted laser on a wall or really any surface, and they see code, these little symbols in this other dimension. And people say it looks like katakana, which is a form of Japanese writing. So could it be possible that the pilots or creators of these UFO craft are related to these DMT entities in some way? And that DMT, the chemical, the molecule, is some sort of gateway between them? I think that there's something there.
All right, I'm gonna fucking go in and look at the laser, like kind of, and not with a negative bravado approach, but it was just like, cool, I got the laser, I'm gonna make a video, like this is gonna be, what's up, like I'm here to look at the laser. So I get everything ready, I get the laser set up, I get all my shit, I take my pen, and long story short, and you gotta throttle this when you're doing the laser. You're not going for blast off levels when you're looking at the laser. You gotta just get it elevated, because I just fucking ripped it, and I'm like, all right, I'm going in. And I blew out that, and it was just like, yeah, you're not looking at the laser. You're not staring at the wall. You're laying right down right now, buddy. And the first time I went to go look at the laser, it was just, and luckily I had my pillow in my blanket there, and I just said, nope, I got to wait this out. Because it was just too much, and it completely took over. Now, luckily, again, it's only a few minutes. So, like, when I came out, I recouped, and I was just like, all right, maybe we got to let's take a third of a hit this time instead of whatever. You have to have some kind of humility when you go into it, because it will kind of smack you around. If you've never done DMT before, I would not be doing DMT just to look at the laser. If your only curiosity is to see the laser, that's not why I would be exploring psychedelics, and that's not why I would be using DMT. And I don't know if Danny would mirror that. I'm pretty sure he would. If that's your only goal, I don't know. Like that's really not what I don't think that's the technology why DMT is here. I think that's kind of like a side effect to it. And he even says that it's kind of like this residual like code left by the people. It was like, oh shit, they weren't supposed to see that. That's not the main reason to be doing DMT. That first session, that very first hit, it felt so natural, so innate, so normal. It wasn't scary or intimidating at all. Now, as soon as that first hit comes in, your senses are changing, the hum, the won't, like, and it's a very visceral, vibratory, like, shaking feeling. The sights start fucking swirling. So it wasn't like nothing happened. It was, well, there was a lot happening, but it wasn't a scary poisoning, like, oh my God, I'm losing control of my body. It was like, oh, this is what it feels like to be more in tuned, more natural, more heightened, more raw, more sensitive. Instantly, it reminded me of a time when I was young, like maybe around 10, 12 years old. It was a very normal a sensation, nasal sensation that I had felt before, and like this nasal cavity drip and taste. And that was where the endogenous kind of factor came in. It was like, wow, this is something that I've felt before. This is something that I've had in my body before. So it gave me the comfort to be like, all right, I don't need to lean away, I can lean in. And that first session was no entities, no profound interactions. It really was just kind of sit back a little bit, like look at the sights and sounds and just hum and be like, all right, cool, my body can feel this. The second session, again, push a little bit further, but it's more like, sit there and enjoy the show, and there's a lot going on. And I would say very rarely are you interacting with entities, aliens. Are you having profound downloads, or for me anyway, it's less than 10%. And when I do have those interactions with the aliens or the insectoid people, it's like you're grateful and thankful. So for you to go in there and be like, I need answers, or I'm going to go in and I want to meet the jesters. Like if that's your intention, or I want to meet these everybody's talking about these mantis people. I want to meet the mantises. Like it was, all right, I feel comfortable with this. And again, it's not, wow, I lost my sight, sound, touch. It's I've got all of those hyper, and now I've got all these other things, and it's like I'm starting to feel my body being more of a powerful instrument or a machine, and it's feeling great. But though pushing it an hour into it, I'm not getting any answers. I'm not getting any sights and sounds. I'm just like, oh fuck, I'm pushing my body to this level where it's kind of like whatever. My friend's looking at me like, you good? Like, people typically take 3 or 4 hits and they're good for a lifetime. You're on, the 7th bowl right now, dude. Like, what the fuck? But again, I was at the point where if I wasn't going to get that answer, and this was already after months of exploring shrooms, I was good. Like, I've got to figure something out. And that's where it was a little bit of a reckless kind of like, I need the answer. So that last session, an hour and a half into it, I'm feeling comfortable. I've got no epiphany. I've got no interactions, no voices, no entities. I haven't seen anything other than just like Alex Gray shit morphing all crazy. And this is where it really resonated when I was listening to Jennifer Jones, because she's like, when you're in that fucking depth of despair, and the way she was wording it, she's like, I'm basically praying to gray aliens, and I know some are bad, some are fucking maybe good, and she's like, I'm at such despair, and I just got goosebumps, because I'm sitting there thinking about what this mom must be like in this position that doesn't have the money, can't fucking do this shit with the job, and it's like, because I was there, and I've got pictures, and I'm writing the next book about it, but when I stood at the beach, and just stood up and was just like, who the fuck am I? Like, and I need this answer. And I pleaded to God, alien, Jesus, whatever is there. And it's like, so I pleaded, and I'm sorry I'm getting emotional, because listening to her, it's like, fuck, man, I can only imagine. And I said, please, I need something. I need some help here. Like, and I don't even know what I'm asking for. And so I mentioned how everything was all this vibratory, everything expansive on all these other last 7 sessions. And I'm fucking pushing it. Well, this last session, I rip it, and I'm ripping it hard, and I'm going deep. I'm doing the breakthrough. And that last session, everything was completely different. There was no sights, there was no sounds, there was no vibratory hum. It was just me completely suspended. I wasn't blasting up through a portal. I wasn't falling into abyss. I was just completely just suspended and comfortable. I had all this mental chatter and all these proverbial mental dots in my brain that were driving me crazy. I had lost multiple relationships. I'd got a restraining order. I just threatened to kill a guy. Like, all this fucking crazy shit, right? Going through my head. And what am I going to do? How am I going to reconcile my past? What am I going to do now in the future? And like most people, they're so worried about the past and the future and the anxiety and stress of managing both of those that they're never able to kind of like be here right now and to be able to be present. And whatever that entity was basically expressed symbolically the major, say, 100 or 1,000 issues in my life, and it all instantly connected them, and it was instantly like all made sense. And then all of those just got shattered and then turned into 1,000,000. And then it was just like, then all those got instantly and then shattered. And the layers just kept getting more and more and blown apart until it was just like, we can keep doing this all day. Like, and it was, you idiot. The point of a human, you're not supposed to connect all the dots. It's not supposed to make all the sense. It's the space between the dots. That's the quiet between the beat. It's that silence between it all. That's where the information is. That's where the peace is. It's the be here, right here, now. I just took accountability for what I'm doing right now. And that accountability hasn't left me in 3.5 years.
My daughter, who's 9, kind of has shown some tendencies of like anxiety a little bit. And she probably gets that from her dad, me. I lost a job and I was trying to go back to school to better myself, but that stress was overwhelming and yada, yada, yada. Had my first panic attack. And that sent me on a decade plus battle, I guess, with anxiety. And through that decade, I learned all these tips and tricks and read all these books and tried meditations and tried, stoicism and all these different things. And I guess the point of what I'm saying all this is that one thing over the last maybe year or so that I've kind of realized is that I feel like there was some sort of source, something I feel like made me go through that, because it knew that I was strong enough to get through that hard part in my life. So that way, when I had my daughter and when my daughter had, or maybe shows some bits of anxiety, that I've kind of already gone through it. So I have these skills and these tips and tricks that as she gets older, if it does become a problem, that I can kind of guide her a little bit and make maybe her experience a little bit less intense than what mine was. Do you feel like perhaps in your life, maybe, prior to you turning 40 and prior, when you were drinking and, having a rough go at life, that there was something that was maybe putting you through that and putting your family through that to one day have this spiritual kind of awakening and this aha moment to be able to then share with the world via your books, podcasts, things like that, everything that you've kind of been through to help other people? Like, do you think that there is some level of like fate there, or do you think it's just all like happenstance?
You just said that to yourself, not to me.
That's probably true, yeah.
So that just so I just wrote with like exclamation points. I'm so happy for you, Justin, that you have this clarity, because the way you just articulated that, yes, and good for you to be a dad like that. I'm happy for your daughter to have you as a dad, because that's exactly it. And if I may, not that I know her, but to any 9-year-old or any young adolescent, whatever, they're all gonna have their own challenges, and I can only imagine growing up with the social media that these kids have, and you can't hide, you can't run from your bullies, you can't do anything, and it's constant, nonstop, 24/7. What I would try to share, and I love my weirdness, my uniqueness. I use the term weirdness as such a badge of honor, and all the young women and men in my life that I try to coach or mentor, it's like, be the most weirdest, uniquest person you possibly can. So my advice to her would be herself perfectly and be the best her. Don't try to be the second best Taylor Swift. Don't try to be the second best popular person in school. Don't try to be whatever. If she can be herself, the absolute best authentic, and if that means whatever, cutting her hair, growing it, cutting it off, doing skateboarding or playing a saxophone, whatever the fuck that is, be the best her, and that, or him, and that would be my advice, and just rock with that. And as a dad, to support that and understand that her growth does come with course corrections and making mistakes, and to give her the space for that, to find out who she is and not be formed. That can be a beautiful back and forth. And to ask your question, do you think that's why you're here? Yes, and to share a little bit about my personal story, that is why I'm still alive. So when I went to the beach that last day, now this is weeks and weeks and weeks of being on the road. This is now on the coast of California, coming from Cape Cod, not getting any answers, not getting anything. I finally pleaded, and I have a picture I can share with you, and it's going to be I'm making, a photo book of my journey on all this. I wrote in the sand in huge fucking letters saying, please help, and I signed it, Adam. And I said, now this is after, once again, months of travel, and trying to figure all this shit out. And I was like, if I don't find the answer tonight, this is it. This is really fucking it. Like, I'm done doing this exploration. I can't do this anymore. I left, got in my car, started driving, nothing. I started getting rainy night, and one of the ways, and I had multiple ways that I had figured I could off myself. Once I had plenty of place to think about it. Again, driving up this beautiful Audi S5, I could fucking launch that thing over any one of these canyon roads, off any one of these mountain roads, and just gone, right? And it would be a quick, easy whatever. So I'm driving now in the Redwood forest, like in Northern California, and all right, I'm good. Like, I didn't get my answer, and I said, this is it. This is when I'm gonna mash it and go. And the second I did that, and this is when a loud booming male voice. So not this ethereal, what was it? Was it a DNA download? No, this was a fucking male English voice booming from the back of my seat saying,
You need to be here for Julie. You need to be here for Julie.
and instantly it was just the desire to kill and hurt myself went completely sucked out. I broke down in massive tears, and then ironically, that was the only time on my fucking road trip that I almost lost control of my car, and I almost went off that cliff that was right there. But I say that because Julie is, she's my niece. Well, she's my niece. She's now 22, 23. At the time, she was, late teenagers. She was going through mental health issues. I know she had talked about potential suicide, and this is the most beautiful, brightest young woman out on the fucking planet. And right now, side note, she is thriving, and because of all this shit, and she's actually going to school in Portland, working on plant-based medicines and mental health, and that would even do exactly this. But I left, and I was just like, I have too many lessons that I need to share with that woman before I go. And even if I can save Julie, I need to save Julie before I hurt myself and off myself. And then, so instantly I'm like, I got to get home. And so I was in Northern California. I got back from California to Rhode Island in less than 3 days. I literally cannonball run it. Like, I averaged about 120 miles an hour, fucking literally nonstop from California to Rhode Island, and just banged it home to hug my mom, to say I'm sorry, and to say I want to live.
So if you're still watching, first and foremost, thank you for being here. It means the world. And I wanted to share something really exciting. We actually launched a closeencounterclub.com website. We'll have it linked down below. But the site includes things like our latest transmissions on YouTube. Even Scully makes an appearance where you can search in things like audio anomalies or Bigfoot or UFO, Phoenix lights, any topic, and it'll search through our entire database of episodes and find an episode that matches that description, which is pretty sick. But the big news is we actually launched a store. The Simulator T, which shows an alien on a computer simulating Earth, and a Receptor T that has a brain mech guy at a control board receiving consciousness. It's very simple right now, but I'm excited for the future. We have hats and stickers and some other ideas planned. So feel free to visit closeencounterclub.com and pick up your t-shirt today. Now back to the episode.
Our psyche is built up of different parts, different archetypal parts, yes, but, and some people like that movie Inside Out, back in the recently that came out, where you have all those little chatter in the head. So I think we all have those proverbial voices in our head and those different aspects of ourselves. And in my case, I've got quite a few, and there's a couple fucking weird, gnarly ones. And the way I was able to, and I think, verbalize it, and that's why when that movie came out, I was like, this is fantastic. Like, this is exactly it.
It's an incredible movie. I agree. I had the same experience when I saw that movie. I thought, this person's done drugs. This is amazing.
In keeping with that movie, it's not, well, one of these characters is the bad emotional, one of them's the antagonist, or one of them's the villain. No, they're all on the same team, and they're all in the same head. And that's the analogy that I had, was that, fuck, I was threatening and yelling and screaming at these women. I had just threatened to kill this man. I had some parts of myself that were really, really nasty and bad. But I also was the sweethearted entomologist, intelligent thinker, the guy that's never been in a fight, the guy that would open the door for the old ladies. Like, I mean, I'm able now to look at both good and bad, but I also had all these other good parts. And it was really a matter of separating that there's more than just Adam as one being. One, there's this higher sense, bigger self Adam. Then within this other egoic Adam, there are parts of my psyche that need to be separated out. And this is where learning them, knowing where they are, not running from them, but not also approaching them with the desire to hurt them, slay them, or fucking kill them, or disassociate from them. It was, okay, who are you? What are you? What is your fucking name? Is it hurt little boy who's looking for dad's love? Is it the jealous guy that's worried about being abandoned by another hot woman? Is it, fuck, you think you're making too much money and there's this imposter syndrome aspect of it? Like, what the fuck are you? And until all of those people then said, why? I can share my space. I don't have to be shunned. I won't be made fun of. I don't have to be yelled at. No. And it's like, that's why I'm sitting here for months crying in the dark. I'm asking you to fucking talk to me. Who are you? And then once all these parts of myself came out, and I was like, dude, you don't need to fucking run. What's up? And that's where finding those aspects, and kind of each one of those, first time I've actually kind of visualized it like this, pretty cool. Each one of those like cartoon characters came from each specific psyche cracked or wound within me, and they all kind of came out from where that hurt came from. It was like, oh, here I'm the broken heart. Oh, here I'm the young boy that whatever. Oh, here's the fucking whatever. And then it was the first time I was like, oh, it's not just Adam. It's 12 different voices, and it was, all right, well, listen, thank you. I know all of you. There's only 6 seats at the table and there's 12 of you. It's all right. We're going to build a table for 12. We're all going to have our voice. We're all going to be able to say our piece, and everybody's going to be held accountable. But anger, you're not going to run the big self, Adam. Jealousy, you're not going to run the big self, Adam. Adam, you're not going to go fucking kill this 30-year-old man because he stole $900 from you, douchebag. Like, keep it over there, tough guy alpha Adam. But it wasn't, you don't want alpha Adam to go away or all those other things. And it was finally letting them to be like, oh, this is my group. And now when I went to Monroe, one of the visualizations that I had was they all look like these Fraggle Rock characters. Like, I had this motley crew of these gnarly Fraggle Rock characters, and they're all these aspects of myself. And maybe that's a combination of watching that movie. But it's like, yeah, so how I was able to get through it and how that inner dialogue changed was, it wasn't like, oh my God, why am I going crazy? I shouldn't be thinking I'm going to kill that guy. Like, I've got a hammer in my door and he just cut me off. I'm going to go smash his fucking jaw. It's like, no, that's just one part of Adam. The other 11 rational that don't want to go smash that guy's jaw, just wants to go home and go to the gym and eat some ice cream. And so it was able to say, you're all welcome. Here's your name. I'm building a table for all of you. We just need to make sure that big self Adam, the mature one that has lost everything before, let's not sabotage him. Like, let's not whatever. And then the second part of your question about how does that allow for interactions not only with yourself, and so then, how does that inner dialogue expand out to interrelationship, or it makes it great because, and I was just listening to a Carl Jung rant about how most people think about putting out boundaries and expressing your boundaries are putting up walls and pushing people out and telling people you can't come in and stay away, and these are my shell, these are my wall, and I'm pushing you away. And it was such a beautiful analogy because yes, we have these boundaries of walls, but within those boundaries of walls, we're able to build gates of clarity. And through those gates of clarity, we're able to say what is acceptable to us, whether that's in relationship, whether that's in a working setting, whether that's in our own inner dialogue. And for me, I am so happy and fun. I love setting up my boundaries. I want to know my boundaries. Here we are. I'll tell them all of you, because within that you'll know exactly where my gates of clarity are, and you're either going to jive with me and want to be along my path and be cool and whatever, or if not, I'm fine with that too, because the clarity says, then you know what? There's another house right over there with those gates of clarity that will let you in. So it makes it so easy. Again, when you're comfortable in your own skin and you know exactly how to articulate that. Expressing your boundaries and then where people can come in is so easy for you because it takes the anxiety of any conversation. Like, I love awkward situations. I love difficult conversations. I love leaning into those things because it allows me to find more gates of clarity. This is how it applies practically too. Before every business meeting or every podcast, I look in the mirror, and I did it before this one, and I tell myself, Adam, I love you. I'm proud of you. Thanks for not killing yourself. Thank you for being alive. Your message is valuable. This is going to help people. And again, if you can help one person from this interview, this is going to be worth your time. And that's not this mantra to motivate that's an honest, dead nuts. When I look at myself, I'm saying it and I'm meaning it, and I'm not worried about anybody hearing it. Then that inner dialogue translates into when I first met you, Justin, the first couple sentences we had, it conveyed right into it with, all right, let's keep this honest and authentic, raw, unfiltered communication going. And that's going to happen tomorrow. And that's when you run up a string of a week, a month, a year of living like that. You're not thinking about suicide. You're not thinking about the bullshit. And if anything, you still have problems, you're going to be thinking about solutions to them, not about running from them.
Yeah. So well said. I love that. Wow. Okay. So the Monroe Institute, I'm going to embarrass myself here, but I've heard of the Monroe Institute, but I don't know too much about it. So can you enlighten me and tell me, what is the Monroe Institute? Where is it? How do you get connected to that?
How do you go?
Yeah.
You got to be picked by the DMT guys. Yeah. So just like DMT, I can almost guarantee you, the Monroe Institute and Robert Monroe's work is probably going to come into your life in the next couple months multiple times. I can almost even like the comments in probably the video, they're going to be like, really? It finds you like DMT like that. This Monroe Institute's been around for like 50 plus years. There's a shitload of information on it. There's a bunch of people that talk about it as far as the experts of it. It was established by a guy named Robert Monroe, who I believe was in the 80s. He had what he considered in terms of an out-of-body experience, where he physically separated from his physical consciousness and was able to look down on his body and his wife's body in a separate way, and he knew it wasn't fake, he wasn't on drugs, he wasn't, and was really trying to explore what the hell is going on and how do I get into this. He had the expertise in radio communications, and he had enough money to kind of scientifically, nerdily, like explore, all right, how do we, maybe there's something to this, and what how do I use my expertise? The technology that he came up with and the modalities that they used are based off binaural frequencies. So binaural just means different frequencies in each ear, and their program is called hemisphere sync technology, meaning hemispheres of your brains and they're syncing it together. So each ear registers a different frequency of sound. The human brain, I believe, is only able to register up to 20 hertz and nothing below it. But the brain registers the difference between those. So if you have 100 hertz in one ear and 108 in the other ear, your brain will register that 8 hertz. They found that there's, again, the reducing valve, Aldous Huxley thing. They found that the brain and human body has physiological responses when the brain is picking up on different vibratory rates. So they're like, well, something happens at 8 frequency hertz, something happens at 12, something happens at 15, something happens at all these different levels. And what happens is some of it is more energetically inclined, so you're vibrating and it's making your body hype. Some of it allows for easier communication with non-corporeal beings, spirits, ghosts. Some of it allows for you to astral project and have out-of-body experiences. And all of this shit sounds completely whack shit crazy, like no fucking way. You're gonna put on headphones and you're gonna ascend to a different dimension and out-of-body. And the answer is yes, which is why it got millions and millions of dollars of funding for tens and tens of years, has amazing government-backed program. Like there's a guy, Joe McGonigal, that has like done some crazy shit for the military, as well as help find and kidnap kids and stuff like there's so many.
I know who he is. I know who he is.
I met him in person. It's fucking
oh, really?
Awesome. Yeah,
oh, damn, that's awesome.
He was at the Monroe. He did like a 3-hour talk when we were there. So basically, when I was exploring Monroe, and what interested me in Monroe was it's like, all right, this all has to do with vibration. This all has to do with energy and sound and the information being conveyed on different frequencies. And anybody that does DMT knows it's all about frequency and vibration. It's all about humming. Like you hit and you're just until the point where you're just like, and so it's playing with those different modalities, all those different levels of a frequency. So I was really, really interested in what I was hearing from their stories, and it sounded very psychedelic. So my whole plan on going to the Monroe and why I wanted to go was I wanted to compare their stories of out-of-body experiences, of knowing that you're more than your physical being, like all of their bullet points I had already experienced. I had already separated from my body. I already interacted with non-corporeal beings. I had already done all of the shit that they had done. And I wanted to go there and compare my experiences in the psychedelic space to what they were experiencing there at the Monroe. So, and I want to disclose too, when I went there, I did not bring any psychedelics. I did not do any in combination with their technology, which is something that I do want to do. And I'm kind of hopefully going to be able to talk to them about doing that in the future and like help them with their programs and shit. I'm hoping. But I was like, all right, well, let's see what happens. And I was, again, going there kind of to be skeptical. Am I going to know when I'm in focus level 12 and 15 and 21? And like, I'm not going there to see the fireworks. I'm telling you, I've already seen the fireworks. I want to see how your fireworks relate to mine. And it was instant and obvious. And oh shit, yes, this works. It's very distinct. It's very clear. Now you're in these nice booths. Everything's blacked out. You have the headphones, and it is guided meditations where they're kind of prompting you. But then they're building in, say they're focus 12, and I don't know exactly how that correlates to whatever frequency, and you feel your body like, oh fuck. Now for someone that's done DMT and knows, it's like, well, what is happening? Like, I don't know, you just gotta, like, you're feeling a vibration in every cell, in every hair of your body, of every, like, you're feeling the cells pulse through your body, you're feeling oxygen being coming, like, like, it's very psychedelic, and it's because they're pumping shit into your brain to change the antenna, to change the scent, that they're changing the station, they're doing something to change the filter, and it's like, oh fuck. And then they're moving to 15, then the 20. Now by the end of the week, it's like you're able to manipulate light bands, and you're seeing crazy shit, and you're talking. Now again, I didn't have a full-blown out-of-body experience, and I didn't do some of the far reaches of it, because that really wasn't my intent. Once I realized, I was like, oh, this is just another tool that I can put in my toolkit that mirrors. It's basically like, oh, DMT can get me to channel 96. Well, all right, focus level 21 is the same thing as 96. And that's what I went there to correlate. And that was the same prompt that led me to wanting to do the darkness retreat, because it was the same thing. It was like, but instead of adding psychedelics and adding binaural beats, it was, let's remove, let's subtract, let's remove all photons of light, let's remove all fucking interaction, let's remove everything where now you're creating the light, you're creating the thoughts. And ultimately it was the same desire and intention. I wanted to go to compare it to my psychedelic in Monroe. And the fact that I just got back in 2 days, I haven't written the paper yet, but I will be writing a paper, and it's basically confirming the very same things. You're more than your physical body. You are definitely sit alone in the room for dark for 5 days. You'll know you're not alone. You know, and again, it's literally the 5 checkpoints that are exactly the same.
Did you find that? Did you find that some of the Monroe learnings, like, you know, focus levels and that the kind of hemisphere stuff that they're doing? Did you find that helped you navigate the DMT space differently? Do you think that's had any effect on?
I don't want to say necessarily help, but more add a confirmation data point. So it's like once you know that water's wet and you know how to swim. Like, I don't know, like you don't need water's wet. Or once you went to church and seen God, like maybe you don't need to go to the next church to see God again. Like it was more just like, wow, no, and this is the point about, once again, remembering your divine energy, how potential you are. It was more just confirmation, like, oh, my body isn't just super elevated, hyper because it's saturated with DMT, or it's only when I'm on shrooms that I can really be clear and honest with myself, or it's only when I'm on the Monroe technology that I feel that I'm more than my physical body. It's like, no, I'm that 100% all the time. And these modalities are just, maybe to your point, Justin, are they cheat codes or they just get you there quick, easy, in a bump, and without 20 years of a monk meditating on a mountain, or without having to go through a 5-day fast, or without being in a car accident and being in a near-death coma for a week. You can just have a blast of DMT. It's like, or, you know, whatever it may be. But once you realize, again, not just my 5 senses that can be dialed to 10, 25 senses that can be dialed to 1,000,000. You don't ever forget that. And that's then I come home on it too, where these aren't just people hallucinating, and this isn't just your mind on drugs. And what is real if you can't physically take it back? The reality is it produces life-changing effects that people come back with, that it has tangible results that cannot, like, I have that same knowing that these people, it's like, I don't need to convince anybody. I'm alive and I'm happy, and my relationships and everything is thriving. I have no desire to drink. I'm in the best mental, spiritual health of my life. Like, I don't need any. I know that what the fuck happened. I know it, but I don't. You know. But again, once you've kind of seen that, and maybe this, I got to go back and, you know, kind of remove some plaque every here and now. But I will never forget my source again. I will never forget the analogy that I've learned about plaque and about whatever. And when adversities come, another analogy I use often is like Girl Scout or Boy Scout badges. Every time you get kicked in the junk, and every time you have to overcome something, and every time you have to go through that challenge, like me just coming out of that 5-day darkness retreat, you know how hard it is to get a 5-day darkness badge on your fucking soul sash? It's fucking hard. You're gonna sit for 5 days in the dark, wiping your ass in the dark, eating food in the dark, walking down the hallway, not stubbing your toe in the dark, figuring out, is there an alien staring at me in the dark? Like, but I'm so happy I did, because it's helped me in so many ways. And it's like, so when shit comes in your life, it's not like, oh, I want bad things to happen, or I'm going to keep challenging myself because I just want a bunch of badges. That's not it. But it's like, when something happens, it's like, all right, there's an opportunity to go through this, to learn it. Maybe which one of my 10 Fraggle Rock, you know, all right, this is when we're going to call in fucking Crazy James. Like, all right, Crazy James, we're going through the woods. You know, like, that's having that fun interaction with life, where it's like, all right, I'm not going to let this bring me down. I'm certainly not just going to go drink 5 beers and then just go walk off and run. What
was it like? So you just basically were in like a studio apartment for 5 days with no light. Am I understanding that correctly?
So
more or less.
In essence, yes.
Okay.
It was just basically a studio apartment with a room and a bathroom, and you know, there was somebody that came once in the morning with food and once at night with food. But the most challenging thing was all the doors were unlocked. I could walk out at any point. All the light switches were still on. There were candles with lighters in the bathroom as well as on the coffee table where you ate, and there was a little like emergency light hanging at your bed. Like if you wigged out, you could always just grab it and put it on. I didn't touch any one of those ever, not once. So that's the challenging thing where there's no one holding you against your will. This is all on you. And the guy even said, he's like, if you're really having a hard time, put on the candle. Like if you're in the bathroom and you're like, I need to see if I have shit on my hand. If you need, like, it's up to you. But for you to make that conscious choice like I did for 5 days to not even do this, like for a second, that took the most mental strength and awareness and comfortability and me rallying my troops of my 12 whatever mentor or my 12 like energies and being like, all right guys, we're all gonna have to man up. But that sense of self where that just gives me, not that I'm looking for more confidence in my ability, I've got that, but it was just like, yeah, you can do this too, Adam. This is something that you can put, you are more than your physical body. You can put your mind in control of it. And then again, maybe we'll have to say this for another fucking episode, but like the positive outcomes that came from that, man, I can't even begin. Like it was just so transformational, so beautiful. I had such experiences that you can't describe unless you sit in the dark for 5 days. I met, I think, a lifelong friend, that the gentleman that sat with me and held space. He's an amazing person that I'm going to be collaborating with in the future. There's just so much positive shit came out of it, including just I have that much more comfort that I'm aligned to my true north, that I'm doing what I should be doing, and that I've just got to keep true to myself. And that's going to come with fuck-ups and failures and course corrections, and come with full humility and say I don't have the answers, let alone myself, let alone to anybody else. But I can guarantee what the answer is not. And again, it's not treating yourself like shit, not masking and running, and not whatever. Not holding yourself accountable.
When we look at nature, one of the patterns that we observe is that biological systems do not preserve complex traits for no reason. A bat has echolocation because it helps it navigate in darkness. A cuttlefish can change color because it helps it hide, hunt, and communicate. Birds evolved hollow bones because flight requires a body built for the air. They are interfaces between the organism and the world in which it has to survive. So that leaves me stuck on one idea. If the human body can produce DMT, and if DMT can create experiences that overlap with near-death states, why does that mechanism exist at all through evolution? Why has it lasted the test of time? What purpose does it serve? And let's make sure that we're accurate here. We don't know for sure that the brain is flooded with DMT upon death. In rats, DMT has been detected in the brain, and the levels increased after experimental cardiac arrest. That does not prove that the same thing will happen in humans. When researchers gave people DMT in a controlled setting, the experience strongly overlapped with near-death experience reports. People described ego dissolution, mythical states, altered time, transcendence, and a reality that felt radically different from the normal waking life. And that's where Adam's story feels very important. Maybe DMT is not a chemical accident. Maybe it's part of a transition system. In moments where the ordinary self is breaking down through trauma, addiction, death, near-death, meditation, darkness retreats, psychedelics, the brain changes the interface. The filter loosens. The body stops feeling like the edge of the self. The pain stops feeling like the whole story. And consciousness gets access to something that it normally cannot reach. Maybe it's showing us a layer of the system that we can't normally perceive.